He could hear her through the wall, singing. She was some species of Christian, he decided, because it was nearly always hymns, good old-fashioned hymns. Now thank we all our God, onward Christian soldiers. He remembered them from his school days, although he probably hadn't set foot in a church since then. But on a Sunday morning, more often than not, he'd hear her through the wall, singing. It became part of his Sunday morning too, along with the bells from St Anselm's. 10:15 they'd start, just when the archers started and he'd turned the radio off. The bells, calling people to the service at 10:30. 10:30, Holy Eucharist. He'd seen it on the notice board, followed by 11:30, chat, coffee and chat. He couldn't imagine anything worse than that. Coffee and chat with a bunch of do-gooder Christians. Oh no. Trying to get him to come along, hold hands or something, making up wishes to some nonsense in the sky. No, thank you. No coffee and chat for him, thank you very much. But he liked to hear her singing through the wall on a Sunday morning. That didn't feel like nonsense. That felt like something real. Somebody feeling something real inside, like a sunny memory. It touched something real in him, like Nana singing when he was a boy. It didn't really matter what the words were. He could hear that something in her voice. All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, and did those feet in ancient times. He could hear her when she was in the kitchen too. Well, he could hear her moving about, turning on taps, opening cupboards and drawers. He wondered what she was cooking. Water in the pipes, kettle on, water rushing down the drain, washing machine spin drying. Sometimes he could hear her kitchen radio. 2 Counties Gold she listened to. He recognised the jingle. She'd sing along to that too. All the oldies. Jerry and the Pacemakers, Glenn Campbell, Nat King Cole. Actually, he preferred sensible talk, not the nonsense they gabbled between songs. He could hear the presenters joking with each other. That wasn't proper radio. It's like the listeners weren't even there. Just these 2 smart Alecs having a joke with each other and chatting about rubbish. And the music. It took up too much space in his head. He couldn't think with all that noise going on. No. If it wasn't sensible talk, then he'd rather have silence. But he didn't mind hearing her sing along to the radio. That was different. Like Nana used to. Kind of comfortable. Reassuring. Even when she couldn't remember the words and just made things up that sounded like they might be right. No. He didn't mind hearing her singing along through the kitchen wall. Found himself tapping his foot when he was washing up. Sometimes he'd turn off the PM programme while he was sorting his tea out so he could hear her better. His knife, chopping the carrots, would slip into the rhythm of the song. He'd stir the soup in time to the chorus. She'd been living next door a good few weeks before he actually saw her. Then he did see her one morning setting off for work, about 8:30. Younger than he thought she'd be. In her 40s maybe, hard to tell. She was greying, but not grey. Silvering. Nice smile though, he thought. Good teeth from what he could see. They looked real, although they could be dentures. That might put a different spin on things. Mother had had all her teeth out when she was 40. Save on the dentist bills. Just easier, she said. Did people still do that? No. He didn't think people still did that. Did they? Good nose, too. Not too small. A little bit crooked, but that didn't matter. His was, after all. Everybody's nose is a little bit crooked if you look closely. Unless they'd have had a nose job done. And then they looked odd, straight, or like a pixie. No, Better a bigger, crooked nose than one that had been messed about with. She was a handsome woman. Not pretty, no. Not a conventional beauty by any means, no, but handsome. There was a grace about her. Grace. Well, a straightforwardness. She moved with spirit as she walked down the road. A generous spirit that lit up her face. Attractive, definitely attractive. Maybe you should pop round one afternoon. Take her a housewarming gift, a plant or something. You'd think about that. You ought to get a haircut and a shave. Yes. He thought about a housewarming gift, but couldn't think what the best thing would be. And then it seemed like too long after she'd arrived anyway. And it's not as if she'd come and knocked on his door, had she? Although maybe she had and he hadn't heard. Or he'd been out. Oh dear. He didn't want to seem unfriendly. He hoped she wouldn't think he was standoffish. He could be a friendly neighbour, as long as there weren't too many demands. He'd feed her cat if she needed him to. Did she have a cat? He wasn't sure. But if she did... He found himself standing more often in the bay window at the front of the house at different times of day. He found it was a very convenient place to stand with his coffee in the morning, at about 8:30, every morning during the week. He'd often see her leave the house at that time, coat on, or over some kind of uniform by the looks of it. Nurse, maybe, or a carer. Definitely a carer rather than an authority figure like a policewoman. Not that. She looked like a carer, someone who cared for people. Yes. She looked very smart. He hoped she didn't think he was standoffish. Perhaps he should still pop round and say hello. Perhaps it wasn't too late. It's never really too late to be neighbourly, is it? Perhaps he should bake a cake and take it round. No, perhaps not. That would be a little too forward. He would often stand in the window too at around 5:45. He'd take a yellow duster from the kitchen cupboard and dust along the windowsill and pick off the dead flies and pop them in the waste bin. We wanted the place to look nice if she happened to glance in. Tidy, clean. He liked things tidy and clean. He could look after himself after all. He wasn't needy. He didn't need help. Or he would stand there and drink a cup of tea. He decided it was a good place to stand and drink a hot beverage and watch a little of the world, and often he would see her coming back along the road just then with a carrier bag or two. Little. If he was honest, he preferred Sainsbury's, but wasn't that a lot of shopping for just one person? He could see she struggled with the gate and all that shopping. Perhaps he should pop out and help her. She'd done some shopping yesterday, and now here's more. All for just her? She didn't seem overweight. Perhaps some of it was cat food, although he hadn't seen a cat, and he'd never seen anyone else in the house or come to the house or leave the house. He never saw anyone, a man or anyone, come to the house to collect her, to take her anywhere in the evening or at the weekend. No family ever came to visit her. No children. Perhaps she was lonely. Perhaps he should pop round one weekend and see if she wanted to play cards or something. Or was that a little too presumptuous? Yes, perhaps it was. He found himself wondering about her as he cleaned his teeth, wondering what her story was. Widowed, maybe. Oh, how sad. She's only young to be widowed. Cancer, probably. Or divorced. Oh dear, yes. Maybe divorced. That put a different complexion on things. So she was married, but she couldn't live with him, or he couldn't live with her. Couldn't stick at it though and work it through. That's disappointing when people can't stick at it and work it through. But then maybe it would have been for the best. Maybe he was abusive and she was just better off out of it. Like Nana with that bastard of a man. She stuck it out too long and look where that got her. Nana should have known from the outset really, but times were different then. Maybe she was a lesbian. No, she couldn't be. She was too attractive. She often had lipstick on in the mornings, and besides, she was a bit too old for that sort of thing. She seemed happy, though, content. She'd smile at him when she saw him there waiting with his cup of tea. She'd give a little wave, perhaps. No, she definitely wasn't lesbian. Sometimes she'd do a little face to show him how heavy the shopping was, or what a tiring day she'd had, or that it was cold and it looked like it might snow. Sometimes she'd mouth a question at him. Are you okay? Me? Oh, yes, I'm fine, thank you. How are you? Tired. He couldn't hear her properly, not through the double glazing, but they'd smile at each other and were neighbours for a moment. And she'd fish out her key and struggle with her shopping as she unlocked the door, and then she'd give him another little wave as she pushed the door shut with her bottom. He'd just get a little glimpse inside of the hallway when the door trapped on something on the mat. Letters, post, circulars. There was a lot of post on the mat. A lot for someone who lived on their own. Why didn't she pick them up? Was she too busy to pick them up? How busy do you have to be not to pick up your post from your doormat? Even if it is just to put it in the blue bin. Was she untidy? Was that the problem? Was she one of them hoarders who never threw anything away? Is that why her husband left? She was so untidy he couldn't stand it anymore and left. So that was why she was on her own. He hoped she didn't think he was being rude by not going round. He would feed her cat if she asked, but he wouldn't offer. Not yet, anyway. If she asked. Although it would be tricky to find everything if the house was so untidy. Poor cat. Probably hungry if it wasn't getting fed regularly. Perhaps he should buy some cat food just in case. Just in case it came looking for something to eat. No, he'd better not interfere. Besides, he'd never met one of her type before. He wouldn't know what to say.